Gratefully, right? We're going to go ahead and start. But before we begin this grandiose meeting, which is going to be very informative and helpful for a lot of our families, I want to pause and share some very sad news. One of our beloved members of the IDD community passed away today. Out of respect for the family and privacy, I will not disclose or just share any details at this point. But I want you to keep this family in your hearts. Say a prayer for them and their friends, in addition to their caregivers. It's a family affair for all of us. So if you will think of them at this heartbreaking time, and as we come together tonight, remember we are a community that belongs together and shares together. Now, let me tell you, I am so thankful you're all here. Sorry for the smaller room, but it's what we could get at this point. I'm excited because we're being videoed tonight, so no misbehaving out there. Sherman is from Freedom Point. He has shared with us some of the excitement happening at Freedom Point, that they're happy that My Special Place is there. And so he's offered to do this video recording for us. So if you don't mind, would you give Jerry a round of applause? Thank you, Jerry. You'll have to turn the camera on him at some point to see if he's still enjoying all this fun. I am Debbie Jenkins, better known as Kevin's mom. And I want to share something very personal. 8 years ago, 8.5 years ago, Kevin came to the Villages on a mission. He's always on a mission. But this mission was to make it more accessible. It was very, very exciting for him when he came here, and he started knocking on doors and doing all the things that he does and has no fear of speaking up. He wanted to help make this community accessible with accessible doors. And he wasn't just thinking about him. He had often mentioned to me, as he would see someone pushing her husband or husband pushing his wife with a wheelchair, and how they manage doors. Because it shouldn't be this way, Mom. And because Kevin was willing to speak up, the public restrooms at all of the town squares are now accessible. In addition, all of our rec centers have door openers. So this progress has made me, of course, very proud, but I'm sure we can all appreciate that accessibility. And I think Kevin's journey is only part of why some very special things are happening here in the Villages. You have to be willing to speak up, help open doors, and today we are opening even more doors together. We are creating what I call a current and changing tide. This tide is a counter tide, a tide that kind of moves through the water, and it's moving in a different direction. Because before there was isolation, low expectations, and fear that families had with their adult disabled children. But today, we know we're not alone. Your loved one really matters, and their future is worth planning everything for them, with them, and together we can accomplish that. We all need something in our life, and I think we all need dignity, self-respect, and having that makes us prosper and become the community we are today. And I truly believe we have that community in the IDD community for special needs. So recognizing that, we need to talk about a lot of things, and most of them pertain to our future and our responsibilities for our children, siblings, caregivers, everyone. We've gone through life asking, what does my loved one need today? But eventually, we must ask that harder question. What happens when I'm no longer here? And I want to invite you all to listen tonight because you'll learn a lot about how living options are possible in many different ways. And with that, I'd like to introduce, sorry, my phone is ringing. I turned off the ringer though, didn't I? I'd like to introduce Carrie Dashoff. Dashiff? Where are you, Carrie?
Right here.
Hey, Carrie. We all know some people collect hobbies, but this man collects experience. Over the past 45 years, Carrie has worn about every hat imaginable, but mine.
That's how I lost my hair.
When retirement came calling, Carrie said, I don't think I'm ready for that right now. So he is now the residential intake manager for the Sunrise community. So please welcome in.
First off,
Well, I'm going to go on and introduce everybody.
Absolutely.
Okay. Then I'll let you have the floor and you can do your dance.
I can't wait.
I like your outfit too, by the
Oh,
way.
wonderful. I can get that same story you did.
Yeah.
The Sunrise story.
Oh, good. I'd like to introduce Laura Safford. She is the Area Director for Sunrise Community. Laura brings 40 years of experience, and I just learned that. You can step up here, Laura, because people need to see you and recognize you. They will be seeing you. So with all of her experience with provider services, residential supports, leadership, and waiver support coordination, she has a wealth of information. So at this point, I hope everybody brought a sponge, because you're going to need to suck it up. This lady's got all of it. All right, you all may know this nice young man. He is our friend to many of our families, and we trust him. Waiver Support Coordinator, Matthew Brown. Matthew helps individuals and families, and gives a lot of passion to families that struggle. So when you need help, you call him. If you have questions or you just need to cry sometimes because there's many obstacles in life, he's always there with an ear to listen. He connects with families and he brings resources. So we are fortunate to have Matthew with us this evening. Together, Matthew, Carrie, and Laura bring different expertise and insight that will help us better understand APD, the waiver system, and housing options. I ask that you reserve your questions for the end so that they can make their presentation and feel comfortable, and then you may ask questions, or if they desire to have you ask questions at this time. At this time, I'd like to introduce Matthew.
Hello. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Very.
Good. Everybody really happy and hopeful for the Sunrise community situation going on here? And we're all really happy to see all the hard work finally getting to the end stages where everybody can start enjoying all of the fruits of that hard labor. As Debbie said, I am a waiver support coordinator. I work with the Florida Agency for Persons with Disabilities. I work with the Medicaid waiver program that basically helps connect people that have sons or daughters with IDD diagnoses to get the services that they need. It's not the easiest process to get approved or to get off of the wait list, but thanks to Debbie, the AFINS group, Debbie Bouquet, and many other people, they've tried to make an easier pathway to get it a little bit faster for everybody. I've been trying to help with this Sunrise project in whatever way I can. I know it's a really important issue, especially with a lot of our loved ones aging and getting to a point where we need to start figuring out what's going to happen in the coming years. It's not an easy conversation to ever have, but I'm a big advocate for planning ahead for having your advanced directives figured out, having, you know, power of attorneys figured out, whatever you need to have for your loved ones so that they're taken care of the way they need to be when you might not no longer be able to be there to help them. As far as me as a presentation, I don't have a video or any fancy stuff to really provide, but I do have a wealth of knowledge as far as the Medicaid waiver program, both in Florida and then some other states' experience. So I guess.
If you have questions, you can certainly ask Matthew now. I have a microphone so he can hear you.
So yes, I was going to say, if anybody has any questions, I can start trying to help.
Would you say advanced directives, is that for like our sons and daughters? Or-
The advanced directives? Yeah, I mean, it's basically planning out what is going to happen with their wishes when you're not able to make those particular decisions. It also assumes whether or not your son or daughter is able to make their own decisions, or if you're your guardian or, you know, legal representative. So everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different, but I can tell you from my own experience, I have some family friends that recently lost their mother in the last year or so, and my good friend and his father were completely lost. Their mother was pretty much the shining matriarch of their family. She planned everything. She had it down to a T. She also had a binder this thick that had everything that was needed to be done for the house, for the bills, for her passing and everything. And when they were dealing with grief and not knowing what to do and not having any direction, they were able to open up the binder and she had it all laid out. And my friend, months after her passing, has said it was such an amazing blessing to be able to have some direction when they did not have any direction at all. Their direction had unfortunately left them. So I always tell people that, you know, don't put it off. You know, we could have a car accident tomorrow, a heart attack, anything can happen, and getting on top of it sooner than later is always a good idea. If anybody has any particular questions on how to approach that, I can always help with resources. I have brought a bunch of business cards today, so if anybody has any questions, I can try to help connect them with that. If you have any like legal firms that have worked with guardianship paperwork or anything for your sons or daughters, they can also help, and they would probably be really up to date with Florida policies on it. But it's just a matter of having some of that stuff planned out so that you know what happens when you can't put that input anymore. And it gives you a peace of mind too. Because then it knows that, then you know if something happens to you that there are some directives and people don't have to just play guessing games with it. So,
What are the steps that the waiver support coordinator must take to switch from the current residential home to residential Sunrise?
So it largely depends on kind of what the situation is for the client currently. The main thing that comes about is you have to have your application in with Sunrise. You have to be interviewed by them. You have to get, you know, an approval by them. We're hoping that everyone that is approved will get some form of an acceptance letter or something that basically says that they were approved by Sunrise. And then at that point, it comes down to the budget, the money part of it. So if a client is already living in a group home environment, for example, then they likely already have the budget available to be able to move to Sunrise, because then your waiver support coordinator will follow the right process and then make sure that the authorization for the group home gets transferred to Sunrise, and everybody gets coordinated on a move-in date and everything like that, and then that's how the handoff happens. They should still be able to keep, you know, their same companion providers, though if they do receive personal supports in the home, more hands-on care, then that will be something that they'll have to leave behind because Sunrise takes over for that particular part of the services. Now, if they are living at the home, which is the situation a lot of people in the villages have, there's usually not enough money in the budget. That doesn't mean that we can't make it work. It just means we have to do what's called a significant additional needs request, where the WSC gathers the information, finds out how much it's going to cost, and then they submit a paperwork. They'll have a discussion with you, and they go over something called an Ames worksheet. And basically, it's a way of sorting out what the budget needs to be compared to what it is now, to cover all the services that your son or daughter might need. Part of that paperwork, to have it The best chance of being approved would be an acceptance letter from Sunrise so that you can tell APD they have already been accepted, they've already been evaluated, and they're ready to move in basically as soon as the funding is available. The WSC will submit it. APD will either approve it or give a reason why not to approve it. Ideally, they're supposed to approve it within 30 days, but that's not really realistic. It usually happens between 60 to 90 days. I, as a waiver support coordinator, keep track of any SAN requests that I put in for these additional funds, and the day it hits 60, I am emailing APD saying, it is now 60 days, you guys need to get this done, and then usually at that point, they usually approve it within a couple more days after that. And if they don't approve it, they have to send you out something called a notice of action that explains why they didn't approve it, and then you do have the option of being able to appeal that. And I recommend everybody who, if it does get denied, then appeal. Appeals are a very powerful tool in getting your voice out there instead of just some paperwork that gets submitted. And then if it's approved, the funding is available, and then the WSC just does their normal process of getting the authorization switched over to Sunrise and ready to go.
So if the appeal gets denied,
There's another appeal. So you can, if your initial appeal is basically between like a mediator, like an arbiter, and then APD, and then whatever providers are involved, the family, and usually the WSC. If it doesn't go your way, then they will give you the option to appeal a second time, and then that time it goes to like the state level. So it takes another step up, and then you see how your luck is with that. Though I would say in my experience, most of the time in the initial appeal, you get a really good feel of whether or not you're going to win or you're going to have a much harder uphill battle. Doesn't mean you can't win, it's just APD will explain why they don't think that it'll be approved, and at that point, the WSC can often try to fix what that is. It depends on the situation. Everybody's different. What was that?
What does WSC stand for?
Waiver support coordinator. Basically, it's a fancy term for case manager. So, but that's what we do, and our job is to basically coordinate all these services, make sure the clients are happy and healthy and safe and everything like that, and try to help you muddle through the weeds a little bit on what's going on with all this. Any other questions?
When we toured, there was a price that they talked about and said, this room and this room.
Yep.
Does that include everything, or is that just your room and board?
So when you're staying in either, so Sunrise is licensed as an assisted living facility. And a lot of people hear that as nursing home, but that's not what that is in this case. It's basically the building is licensed as assisted living, that's what we have to go for, and but they're still going to receive the same level of care they would any normal time. The two parts of the cost of living there is the room and board, and then the actual funding for all of the caregivers that are going to be working with the son or daughter throughout the 24 hours of their day. So APD and the Medicaid waiver program, they pay for the provider to provide all the support and the services and everything like that, but the client is responsible for the room and board, which is the exact same thing if they move into like a group home. The room and board ranges usually from about $800 to $1,100 depending on where they're going to live, and it usually comes out of their employment or their Social Security. So those combination fees.
That makes sense.
Does this differ with the ICMC?
Well, the ICMC program is, I know a good amount of it, but not everything, because I don't work with the ICMC program, but it originally started off as an alternative option to the iBudget waiver, the current program a lot of us are familiar with, to give people more choice, which is great. People like to have more choice. But it's a newer program. They're still working on getting a lot of contracts in this area, and there are certain advantages and disadvantages to it, which I would invite more people to look at the website and the FAQs that they have, which I'm happy to share those websites for anybody who's interested. But basically, a lot of people are not necessarily interested in going with the ICMC program because one of the several different requirements is that you may have to change your medical providers from the person they're seeing now to the ones that the ICMC approves. The way I like to describe it is kind of the difference between straight Medicaid and HMO Medicaid. You know, if you've got HMO Medicaid that's administered by Molina, United Healthcare, Aetna, or something like that. They are the ones that are making the decisions on something gets approved or not generally, whereas when it's straight Medicaid, then it's just between you and your doctor and Medicaid, pretty much directly. So the ICMC program, it'd be really good for some people. I think the main advantage of it is people who have been on the wait list for a long period of time. If you're not having any luck getting off of the wait list and getting iBudget waiver services, then I would look into the ICMC program, because one benefit of it is that it will get you off of the wait list and start getting you services faster, which is one of the things it was designed to do, was to be able to help get people off the wait list and get their services.
That's after you're approved for services.
Yes, but you're not, the approval for APD would be specifically for the iBudget waiver. The approval for services for the ICMC has to do with the company Florida Community Care, which is the ones that have been chosen by the state to administer the program.
But it's important to note that you have to be APD eligible in order to participate.
Yes,
in that.
you do have to have one of the eligible conditions, and you have to have all of the rest of the eligibility has to be the same. Yeah, correct.
So,
Can I throw one thing in there
Yeah.
also? If you go into the ICMC, like Matthew was saying, if you don't currently have funding available, it could be a stream to be able, if you're currently on the pre-enrollment list or the wait list, then it may be an avenue for you to get services. The other part of the ICMC is, if you've been on it for a year, then at that point you can choose to go onto the waiver. So some people are doing it so that they can get into the system, and then at the year mark, you can say to your case manager or go to APD and say, don't really like this, I'd like to go on the waiver, and then that is part of the criteria to get you onto the Medicaid waiver also.
100%.
And so it's kind of a partnership sometimes that we look at, even though, I know Matthew's not going to advocate for everybody to go to, ICMC because he's a waiver support coordinator.
Yeah.
And so, but it's looking at to see what's going to be the best option for you and your families to be able to receive services. So we're going to advocate for,
Yeah.
don't leave Matthew.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I may be a little biased because I work with the current program and I like it a lot. There's nothing wrong with the ICMC program, and it's really a great avenue for people to get services if they haven't already. And it will work with Sunrise and their situation for being able to have your son or daughter placed there also. So if you're on the wait list or you don't have services at all yet, but your son or daughter is eligible for it, it might be a great avenue to check out. If you're already on the iBudget program and you're receiving services, talk with your waiver support coordinator, discuss the different particulars of your situation. APD recently sent out some letters to everybody who was part of the program. I've been answering those questions for the last week. But they also included some different phone numbers on there and stuff you can get more information. So don't discount it as not as good as the iBudget waiver, it's just different. It's just a different type of program.
so if my child goes to my special place, will I keep, or my son keep the waiver support coordinator, or will I have to?
If they go to Sunrise, they will still keep their same waiver support coordinator. If you go to ICMC, you will lose your
Yes.
waiver support coordinator because you get their own care coordinator through their company. And you
And-
don't get to choose it. That is one difference. With the iBudget program, you get to have a choice in who your waiver support coordinator is. As far as I've been told with ICMC, you get one assigned to you,
Yes.
which is got some negatives and positives to it, because if any of you have ever tried to get a waiver support coordinator here in Central Florida, it can be a little difficult to find one sometimes because all of our caseloads are pretty much maxed out.
Right.
So having the company assign one that you know is ready to go is maybe a benefit. So
So would you still develop the plan at Sunrise Community, at
You mean
my
like
special
the-
place? Would you still oversee the plan for the individual?
yeah, I mean, that's all part of the planning process and the whole getting everybody ready for the transition over. A lot of things will have to be adjusted, like the number one is the support plan, which is the kind of guiding plan that we develop with the client, the family, and ourselves as far as like what the person needs, what their care needs are, what their goals for the future are. All that stuff will be developed, and then if they're going to Sunrise, it will be adjusted to be appropriate to what Sunrise is going to be able to provide for services. And then, like in my case, I will still go visit all of my clients that do move to Sunrise, and I'll be visiting them every month and coordinating with Sunrise staff to say, hey, how are they doing? And they'll be helping me out with all of that. And so not a whole lot will change in that sense.
Our one thing is that we will maintain the partnership that you currently have with your waiver support coordinators. So we'll work very closely with Matthew or whomever your coordinator is to ensure that those things are in place. We're not a substitution for your waiver support coordinator, we're just an adjunct, and we're just added on to the services to help facilitate and work collectively as a team.
Yep,
So.
exactly.
If you're on pre-enrollment for APD,
Mhm.
thinking you're gonna do iBudget, how do you get considered for ICMC?
There's a phone number that you call that if you're on the pre-enrollment, then you're already eligible. It's just a matter of getting to that point. There are phone numbers that you can either, if you go to Google and you type in ICMC Florida, you'll get a whole bunch of information, their own website plus the one that's done by Department of Children and Families or ACA. Or if you want, you can take one of my cards and I'm happy to try to help you connect with that information.
Or if you're not even pre-enrollment yet, but you're eligible by diagnosis for APD?
That I'm not 100% sure on, but that's what they do say is call the number and talk to their specialist because they can suss out your situation.
The agency is called Florida Community Care, FCC, Florida Community Care, and you just simply Google that.
Okay.
You would contact them and let them know that your son or daughter happens to be on the wait list and you're interested in getting them into services. And it takes off from there.
If you're not on the wait list though, or the pre-enrollment, that is your first thing you have to do. Regardless of which service you're looking to go for, you still have to be pre-enrolled.
Yes.
You do have to be on Medicaid, but that's usually the application that you do with APD to start getting services. That's usually kind of part of it because APD is very aware that they need to have Medicaid to be able to receive any services.
We're moving because the cameraman needs us to the shot.
Oh, you're ready to take over?
Thanks to Jerry.
I thought you were going to take over. So, any other questions at all? Again, if you think of something later on, I mean, at the end of the meeting, I'm going to be in the back answering any questions if people have, or at the end of the meeting, and I'll have business cards. Even if you're not in the iBudget program, or I'm not your waiver support coordinator, I'm always happy to answer questions. I don't always know the answers, but I'm happy to do some research, and the only way we get through all this is working together. So, but if there's no other questions, I will turn the floor over to
Thank you, Matthew. That was very informative. We really appreciate your insight.
Not a problem.
My name is Kerry Dashiff. I have been in the field, as mentioned before, for 45 years. The first 38 was with the state of Florida, Agency for Persons with Disabilities. And not wanting to retire, I moved on into working with Sunrise, where I'm presently overseeing intake for the state of Florida, Sunrise Community. I also happen to be a new resident here in the Villages. I just moved here 6 weeks ago. So I am nicely connected with my special place, so I always say I'm Johnny on the spot, so if you need me, I am in your need. Yes, I come with quite a bit of experience, and it's just been a wonderful transition for both myself and my wife. Most importantly, I want to thank all of the families that have invited us into their homes to meet your sons and daughters. You have been just wonderful. It's been a wonderful experience for Wendy and I to meet you. Your hospitality has been wonderful. You made us comfortable, and we really, really did enjoy that. And I can't say enough about how productive it was just to get an understanding of what's going on in the family. So again, thank you for your hospitality and welcoming us into your homes. So thank you for that. Can you help me get set up here? One of the first things that I'm going to talk about is the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. And hold on one second. Let's go ahead and and we're going to talk about the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. As I mentioned, I was with that agency for 38 years. Matthew, where did you work at? What region were you in?
For right now, for here?
No, when you worked for APD.
I haven't worked for APD, I just worked as a waiver support coordinator,
Gotcha,
but I
gotcha.
worked for a couple different Medicaid programs.
Understood, understood. What I'm going to go over is basically the process of applying for the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. And we're going to make it, I'm going to streamline it and make it as easy as I possibly can for all of you if you are at that beginning stage. So we're going to turn this on here. Yeah, that's a little better. All right, wonderful. perhaps you all are familiar with Jeanette Estes. The APD office, we're very fortunate to have an office here in this rural part of Florida, and that's in Wildwood. Jeanette Estes is the Central Region's Operation Manager. There are other locations, but Wildwood, obviously, that's where you're going to go and apply for services. Many of you are probably familiar with the address, 901 Industrial Drive, and that's where you begin the process of applying for APD. That is the APD office for the Central Region, although they have other offices in the Central Region, including Lakeland and Orlando.
But we have Russell Stover's by the Wildwood office,
And,
right?
right, and you got Russell Stover, so another reason to go to the Wildwood office. Okay, we can go up a little bit more. Okay, now bring it down, see if we can. Okay, so let's talk about navigating the agency for persons with disabilities. You have unique needs, I have unique needs and challenges. Where do I go and apply for services? Well, here we're going to go to Wildwood, but you can easily apply for services online. APD has revamped their enrollment system, their web system rather, and it's much easier, very much user-friendly to apply for APD services than it was in the past. So persons seeking services must first apply with the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, the application process. Now we know where the nearest location for APD, and it's right here in Wildwood, so we don't have to travel to either Daytona Beach, Tampa, or Orlando. And APD is divided into 6 regions, and we are in the Central Region. Go up a little bit more, there we go. All right, an application must be completed, and the application can be found on the website, apdmyflorida.com. Like I said, APD revamped their entire website. It is user-friendly, and it's very easy for me to help parents who call me, and I say, are you near a computer? And most of them are, and it's easy to help them navigate the process. So, an application can be completed online, and it's very easy to fill out. Now, here is what's most important. Who is eligible for services? Disabilities served by the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. When APD became an agency of its own, it used to be under the Department of Children and Families umbrella. And in 2004, the state of Florida recognized we need to move APD out of that DCF umbrella and make it its separate operation, so people can know exactly how to obtain services without having to go through such a large bureaucracy such as DCF. We were hidden under so many programs, so we needed to separate ourselves, and that's what the legislature decided to do. So here are, again, the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, when it was first introduced, the name Agency for Persons with Disabilities, we got phone calls from every type of disability in the world. And it was just amazing how many people needed services, and then we had to tell them exactly who we are and what disabilities we provide. So it was sort of very misleading at first when you hear the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. The big one is intellectual disabilities. What does that mean? You have to have an intellectual disability, meaning that the IQ score has to be 70 or below. Now, these are testing instruments that are recognized in the state of Florida and throughout the country, where an IQ is administered, usually by a psychologist or a psychometrist, and the score has to be 70 or below. That is key. And let me just back up a minute. What is very, very important here is that that test has to occur during the developmental years. And that means from the age of 0 up until the 18th birthday. Okay? So, there are situations where, and we came across a few of these unfortunately, where somebody clearly has an intellectual disability, never applied for services, they're in their later ages of life, they have no documentation whatever to support that intellectual disability. It's too late to get tested. APD, the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, is not going to recognize the test if it happens after the age of 18. And that's unfortunate. And we have a few cases that have applied for My Special Place. And I tried to help this one family track down the school where this person attended. Now, this person's 80 years old. So the school no longer exists. As a matter of fact, it burned down like 40 years ago. And with it went the records. And so I don't know how we're going to be able to help that family, but we're continuing. I'm not giving up. So, full-scale IQ 70 or below, severe forms of autism. Once again, severe forms of autism. What does that mean? Well, the spectrum. And we got the entire spectrum. So what APD is looking at, basically, it's going to go back to that IQ of 70 or below. Or there might be other indicators for APD to look at to determine whether somebody truly has a severe form of autism. It used to be autism. That was the eligibility category. And then they had to refine it because autism is, as we know, it's very broad. Spina bifida, which is a curvature of the spine. We don't see too many of those individuals, at least in my career. I come across maybe one or two. These are physical disabilities, along with cerebral palsy. We come across quite a few individuals. One thing about cerebral palsy, there's no such a thing as a residential home for a person with cerebral palsy. Most individuals with cerebral palsy are not necessarily intellectually disabled. They have normal intelligence, but physically they have disabilities. So there's not a whole lot of services for a person with CP unless they wish to go into a residential setting, which they qualify for because they are APD eligible, but that residential setting may not be appropriate for them because most of the time they're not going to be among their peers due to their intellectual functioning. If we have an individual who has a diagnosis of CP and has an intellectual disability, then we have a different story, and then we have homes that can address and meet the needs of that person. Prader-Willi syndrome, which is an eating disorder associated with an intellectual disability. That is a very, very tough behavior to manage. These are folks that constantly do anything to steal food. It is a really difficult behavior to address. We have a few individuals in our program down south with Prader-Willi. We have behavior-focused homes, which we'll talk about shortly. Phelan-McDermott syndrome, that's a recently added syndrome. I think it was added maybe, well, recently. It seems like it was added yesterday. I think that's probably 15 years now. And that would also be associated with an intellectual disability. There would be an IQ with that as well, an IQ test. Down syndrome, and individuals between the ages of 3 and 5 who are at high risk for developmental disability may be referred. Yes, Matthew?
I just wanted to say they also added Tatton-Brown-Raman syndrome to the list of eligible
really? I didn't know that. Wow.
That's very recent.
Wow, very well. Did not know that. And of course, that is associated with an intellectual disability.
Yes, and they have it on the APD website, but I think it's been added within like the last month.
Wow, well, good to know. Good to know. And usually, they're the senators or families of well-connected politicians. They push those syndromes through, and you know, just they still though have to go through the testing and so forth. Okay, now that we talked about the various disabilities that APD recognizes, here is what is critical. Just because you have a disability, you need to have the documentation that supports the disability. If you don't have that, there's nothing to support it, and therefore APD is going to reject the application because there's no supporting documentation. Again, referencing back what I said earlier, with the gentleman who is in his 80s and clearly has a developmental disability, yet he has no documentation. So it's so important that I can't emphasize parents to maintain school records, keep them forever, never discard them. Testing, which is usually part of the school records, testing is the psychological. And the psychological is really the golden key that will show the person's IQ level, 70 or below, is a qualifier. Okay, medical records are used primarily for persons with Down syndrome. You can be deemed eligible through a medical record with Down syndrome and also cerebral palsy. Now what's interesting, if persons who do not have supporting documentation, such as persons with cerebral palsy and Down syndrome, they can still become eligible because they're born with that. And so it would be a matter of getting a doctor to document that the person has such a diagnosis. But I also heard, I don't know where I got this information from, there was an individual with Down syndrome who did not have documentation, and they did not accept, APD did not accept the doctor's documentation making the diagnosis. They wanted the blood work to show, and I never heard that before from APD. As a matter of fact, that was surprising that they went that far to ask that family, we're going to need blood work, when Down syndrome, a doctor can easily make a diagnosis. So that was just unfortunate. Yes?
It was me.
It was you? Oh, wow.
Yesterday.
Oh, this happened yesterday. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
It struck us yesterday how much that bothered you. You kind of tuned out part of the conversation for the next minute.
So, this was the conversation. You know,
Yes.
I do so much.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was yesterday?
That was just yesterday.
Yeah, I was shocked when I heard that.
Yes, you were.
Wow.
School records and medical records were not enough.
So there you go. Yes.
I also had to get genetic testing for Carol. And I had sent them 45 pages of school documents that said Down
It's,
syndrome, and I had sent medical records,
it's-
and they made me get genetic testing for it.
it's sometimes, APD, it has its good and bad points. And I think it's a little overboard to ask for that information, but, I'm not the one to say, what type of testing is needed.
That's
Okay.
where Carrie would get another question.
Okay.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So my question is this: if I have testing ever since he's been like 3 years old, but it's always his IQ is too high, but he has notable disabilities. Notable. He's had diagnoses, but his IQ is off the wall, but he really can't function. So because of his IQ, he's not going to get this, right? No matter what. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately. How old is he now?
He's 31. Yeah.
What is it, if you don't mind my asking, what was the IQ?
I don't really remember, but ever since he's been little, it was above average.
It was above
From a
average.
regular.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Right, and I mean, he has Asperger's, he has OCD, he's getting worse every year.
That
that's there.
population
Okay.
right
Just
there,
curious.
it's just,
That's why I got denied, I guess.
yeah, it's unfortunate, it
Yeah.
really is. And we have yet to come up with a plan for programs for that population, because they need services just as much as our
Right, like they give
population.
us other services, but I guess we're not gonna get this.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Gary.
Sure, oh, yeah, sure.
I gotta ask one question. Our son has
I will do
OCD.
that.
Oh, OCD?
OCD.
Right. That's okay.
And is that common among those with special needs?
Sure. You find it with autism. Very common, OCD. I'm
Yeah.
going to be very honest, I have OCD. So, yeah, it's you see a lot, we see that diagnosis often, you see the reports and so forth. Very common. Any other questions as we move along?
One more.
Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
so even though those were when he was, young, he got very high IQ tests, can he get tested again, just in
No.
case it changes?
He won't, he can get tested again, but APD is not going to recognize it.
Okay, gotcha.
It's unfortunate. It's just,
Okay.
okay. Where are we? Okay, so once you've been found eligible, as you know, you all received a letter from APD stating that, you are now eligible for services for APD. And at that point, the way it works, you're going to be placed on a wait list, and an APD will assign a caseworker, and that caseworker is going to outline what is known as an abbreviated support plan, and then you go on to a wait list. Now, all of the years that I've been involved with APD, I've always had to give bad news when it came time to say, you have to go on a wait list. And the bad news is that that wait list could be 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It used to be that people would get into services by writing their elected officials. And then we would get letters sent to the agency, and it would frighten us to the point that, okay, this person, this parent is a real go-getter, a strong advocate. And that was one of the ways parents, unfortunately, had to go through in order to get services. It was just horrible. I saw the horror stories, I saw the suffering. Things got a little better throughout the years. When Governor Jeb Bush came on board, he was really the first governor in my tenure with APD that really got involved with our population. And it seems like every governor after him took an interest in our intellectually disabled population, so it's gotten horrible. And what APD did do, they came up with a system called Crisis. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, or if your loved ones got onto the Medicaid waiver via Crisis. But you had to be either homeless, caretaker, unable to provide care, and you would have to provide documentation that you were unable to provide care, or the person is considered a danger to himself or others. Those were the three the criteria in order to get onto the waiver, but that would take quite some time. That didn't happen overnight. And APD would look at every T that was crossed and every I that was dotted to ensure that that person was truly in crisis. And I would always tell the families, even when I worked for APD, you got to turn up the volume. Fortunately, one of the greatest things that has happened during my time with the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, actually after my time, was the coming of managed care. And Matthew had referred to the managed care. That was the ICMC budget, right? And that is administered through Florida Community Care. The great news about all of this is nobody no longer has to wait to get funding. And that's a beautiful thing. I think that is the best thing that has happened to the Agency for Persons with Disabilities since I began. There is no more wait list. Unless you want to linger on a wait list, you don't have to go through the crisis anymore. You just simply make a phone call and say, my son or daughter is on the wait list. And then you'll get put on. That's simple. You'll get put onto case management or managed care. You'll be assigned a caseworker, and you will be entitled for funding for all of the services, the same services that the I-budget, the waiver has. So it's a wonderful thing. And also, what's good is that the fact that you can be on it for a year, and if you don't like the services, you can automatically jump into the med waiver. So it's my understanding, this is what I've been told from administrators, that the funding right now is plentiful. I never heard that before. So these are really good times for parents who have individuals with developmental disabilities who meet eligibility and can get services immediately. I never thought that would ever happen.
What you were just talking about, immediately getting the services, is that if you're not on Medicare?
You need to be on Medicaid. You have to have Medicaid.
Okay.
You have to be eligible for Medicaid.
And you have to be on APD.
You have to be first eligible for APD. And once you're eligible for APD, you have the choice, linger on the wait list or get services immediately. And like I said, that has never, ever happened before. And it's good news for our population, our community. It's the best news ever.
So just to throw in, one of the things is that you talked about Medicare. If somebody, a lot of folks never ever pull their benefits. So if you have an intellectual disability, that one of the qualifying, Social Security then will work with you and set up for SSDI benefits, which then automatically qualify you for Medicaid, which then helps to get the next step into the services.
Right.
So just as but a lot of parents say, well, we don't have to do that, we don't need Medicaid. You don't necessarily have to use the Medicaid in that regard. You still can continue to use, your Medicare as your primary services for somebody. but that's the way you get funding straight through. What Matthew's talking about for services, they have to be on Medicaid, and it is a specific Medicaid geared towards providing services, so.
How does that help you exactly get through the APD process?
It doesn't necessarily.
Okay.
That doesn't help you necessarily, but once you get through and you're on the enrollment, you'll still need to have the Medicaid. You'll have to go to Social Security, pull their benefits, or apply for Medicaid. So,
You don't need Medicaid to apply for APD.
no.
Okay. A little bit about
We got another
Sunrise. Oh, yeah, I'm
question
sorry.
here. Sorry.
Hi. Earlier in the beginning of your introduction, you had mentioned that you had met some of the families and their homes
Yes.
for their interview, I
Yes.
guess I would imagine.
Mhm.
Are they completed yet, or is there still other families waiting? Because we've had a Zoom meeting with Ms. Flagg, but we've never heard anything after that as far as when the next in-home session was going to be.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
I'm trying to be a little generic about my special place because the intention of this was to do, but I will talk to that
Okay,
point.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Okay, I don't want to take up, I told Wendy, less is more.
I got one more.
Oh,
I hate to interrupt,
absolutely.
sorry.
Let's rock
Is
and
there
roll.
any legal help out there if I wanted to hire a lawyer to represent me?
Yes. you
Who
can-
are these people? Because I've looked and everybody says, no, we don't do that.
Have you checked with Disability Rights of Florida?
Yes, they're,
That's-
they're start
Disability rights
Googling,
in Florida.
yeah.
They will offer services, and it's free, but their workload is pretty vast. So trying to get them to work with you.
All right, why are you doing this for an appeal?
Do you have guardianship?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Are you working on an appeal?
What's that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're working on an appeal? Have you been
Yeah, I am a hearing. I'm
denied?
going to a hearing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just say one thing to you, sir?
yeah.
So I used Morgan and Morgan because
Yeah, I called them
my-
up, they said they can't help me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
Sorry.
don't, I would
Yeah.
go to Disability Rights of Florida.
They helped me.
There's 3 other mortgages.
There's three mortgages, yeah. Repeat the question.
So the question was whether or not we have day programs for folks. Is that your?
Right.
Yes.
Right now, here we don't, but we plan. That's something that's on the drawing boards
Yes.
that we want to do for the folks in this community, is to have a day program.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So one of the things is that, my job is, and we'll kind of address this, one of the things that we do in any of our residential facilities is that there are activities that happen all the time. We're big on active treatment, which means people don't sit around all day, they don't sit with a magazine, a coloring book, watching TV. That's our goal, is not to do that. And so, I don't know if I need to go back to the stage or... So, my job at this point though is to talk about, okay, you've been qualified, you got your funding, well, you're ready to go, you have your support coordinator or your case manager, depending upon your funding source. What happens now? There was a question, people have asked a lot of questions. What's going to happen? How does that work? When my loved one moves into a home, what happens? So once you've done that, we've done the evaluations, and this is kind of related to what my special place in the process with Sunrise has been going on a little bit, and I don't want to talk a lot of detail about that part. We've done a lot of interviews. We probably have done 50, Carrie and Wendy have probably done 50 interviews at least. Good morning.
Yeah, you look so beautiful.
Wow, look at you now, Laura.
Yeah.
So one of the things is they've done a lot of interviews, all right? We still have at least 20 more to go, and those are scheduled between August and September. So we're still working through those. We have 2 levels of criteria. We have MSP 1, My Special Place 1, and My Special Place 2. MSP 1 is our 13-bed facility, and they are both assisted living facilities. The other MSP 2 is a 31-bed facility, which is the one that has to go under extensive renovations. If you stepped into the building when you did the tours, it was welcome to the 1990s. We're going to take it to 1920. We're going to take it to 2026 and beyond with our designs and what's happening with that facility. So if you've done the one where color schemes are very similar to what's currently within MSP 1. So you've done this. We've done the interviews. You've met with people. You've been on. The decision has been made that yes, you're ready to go. All right. we at Sunrise have a plan, our next step in this. We're finishing all the interviews before we go to the next step, all right? There's a committee of us who are making those decisions based on the interviews with you all and your family members. And so we've looked at that information. Our goal is to meet the needs of the individual. What are the best needs, the best fit? We're realistic about the fact that we have 44 beds, right? We have 80 applicants right now. So not everybody's going to meet the criteria for that, all right? We have a wait list. It's a given. We've talked about this for a long time. You know, I want to say the one thing is thank you to My Special Place and to Offense, because I've been working in the business for 40 years. I've never had a group of parents who have done this much work to make this happen. And we at Sunrise are so thrilled about this partnership that we're in with My Special Place.
Yay!
It is truly a dedication So now here we are, you've done that, you know, you've been informed, we've come back and met with you again and said, okay, let's get more details. That was initial interview. You met Wendy Flagg, who was our facility administrator, and so she's going to be running the program. So she's very familiar with assisted living facilities. But regardless if you're coming into My Special Place or if you're going to the next step somewhere else, all right? What happens is you come in, we meet with you again, and we say, much like Matthew was talking about with the support plan, okay, now here we are. Let's talk about what the plan's going to be. What's the timeline? You know, are we going to need special funding? You know, that's a crucial, part of this. If you're currently getting waiver funds, or if you're on the managed care, the ICMC, you will need to determine that you need more funding approved, because if folks are living in the home and you don't have a lot of supports or needs, you have a companion or you may have some personal supports, you're going to need more funding than that, regardless of what facility you go into. So that's just the reality of it. So the other part of that is, if you haven't had a QSI, the questionnaire for situational inventory, yeah. So if you haven't had one of those recently, you're going to have that done again. All right. So that will justify the funding, particularly if folks are in a family home. Now you have to justify why you need more funding and what are those skills and what that is, because then there are levels in any facility you go into. You know, and in My Special Place, there are 3 different levels that we're looking at. So we're looking at, actually 4, moderate, 3, pardon me. Minimal, moderate, and extensive are the 3 levels that we're looking at specifically. There are some people who will not meet the criteria for those because they're way more independent than you realize they are. And so when those assessments are done, they may not meet the criteria, but that doesn't mean that there aren't alternatives available to do other services with. So one of the things that happens is when we've made the decision, you've gone in, you've figured out, okay, I'm ready to go, here's what's going to happen next. And in doing that, we have to talk about what are the dynamics, what's going to look like, what room am I going to be in, what am I going to need to bring, what medication, how does the medical part of it work? That's a big question, right? You guys worry about, okay, I have medical appointments, I have doctors that I work with, so there will be, program managers who will help work with that. We'll have a residential manager who helps be able to facilitate, make sure those appointments are scheduled and that they're happening. Staff will go with them to be able to take them to appointments. You all as parents and guardians can go to those appointments with them as well, or you can come and take them to the appointments. Those are one of those medical things that's always a question about what happens. Are they going to have a roommate? Well, we're not doing any roommates in the facility unless we have very specific requests to do that. So everybody will have their own room. We'll determine kind of based on their level, which facility they're going to go into. And then also, in MSP2, we keep referring to these initials. It makes it easier sometimes. It's a mouthful for me sometimes. MSP2 is the 2-story building. The second floor is going to be people who are more independent. We're realistic about the fact there are folks who don't need me to hover over top of you or a staff to hover and say, what are you doing? That's not what our business is. Our business is let's make you independent as possible. All right? Ensure that you have the needs that you need, though, and not leave you out there doing nothing in your room. We're going to engage with people. So that's what the goal is, so that you're aware that that's what's happening. We'll make sure that we have all the medical information we need about your loved one. We're going to make sure that all of those things are set in place. you know, and so then we're talking about, when are we gonna move in? All right, the other question you're gonna say, are there gonna be enough staff? Who's gonna make sure that that's happening? So we have a residential manager who oversees all the staffing in the facility. And this is true across the board in any of our Sunrise facilities. We have residential managers who oversee all the direct supports professionals. All of our staff go through 2 weeks of training. 1 week is specifically about how to manage individuals, how to assist with their personal care needs, what's appropriate about rights, what are their rights, understanding abuse, neglect, exploitation, ensuring that those things and their rights are being supported and ensuring that their needs are being met. The other part that we do is positive behavioral supports. And that's just basically dealing with what happens if somebody gets aggravated, how do I deal with that and how do I redirect it? You know, we all get frustrated. How do I deal with somebody who's getting frustrated? Doesn't mean that somebody's going to become aggressive or whatever that may be, but our entire staff are trained in those techniques as well. Just aware of what that means, how to redirect, how to support people, how to be a positive environment. So 2 weeks of training. And then at that point, they are also medication certified. So they'll go through our RNs, do all the medication training. And this is true in any of the facilities that you'll go into. Different agencies have different lengths of time for their trainings, but if they're passing and administering medications in facilities, staff are required to go through the Agency for Persons with Disabilities training. And that is a very extensive training, and it's annual recertification for those. All the staff are required to be CPR first aid certified in all of the APD group homes. That's a requirement. All ALF homes is a requirement for that. All right. People will need to make sure that there is a tracking system. We use an electronic health system that helps us to have a fee sheet that has everybody's information on it. And we'll gather that information from you all, from the families saying, tell me about their medication, tell me about their side effects, tell me about, you know, what happens when it's too noisy in the room. Tell me about, you know, our likes, dislikes, interest. So all of that's part of the face sheet that we do, and a lot of facilities do the same thing. All right? So we've got that information. We've gathered all kinds of information from you. And then like you're saying, okay, am I ready to have them come stay with you? You know, how many people are nervous? A little like, now what? You know, sure, we're parents and that's what we do, right? You guys are ready for this because you're here today. You all have been doing this for a year. I was with Christy and Debbie Bocare yesterday, and you all started this a year ago in April, and everything was purchased in April, and here we are in August, and we're almost there, right? That's a phenomenal thing. So you guys are ready for this. You parents have made this happen, and family members and siblings, right? So you guys are ready. It's a little it's a little scary, right? Y'all can come visit. I can't stay the night, I'm sorry. But you can come and visit and hang out and have dinner and whatever you want to do with that, okay? Because I know you guys want to make sure that they're safe, that you know who the staff are, that you're familiar with them, that you understand that they understand your individual. They're going to love having a conversation with you about your family member and learning more and more about them, right? I know some of you probably have loved ones who are in group homes already, right? And so you may have had bad experiences in the past, you know? My special place trusts Sunrise, right? We've been in business for 60 years. I've been in business for 40, not with Sunrise all those years, but I came back to Sunrise because this is a phenomenal company, all right? And we're here to support your loved ones. That's what our job is. So once we've done all that, we've got all your information, we do move-in day, all right? You guys will need to be able to look at the room and figure out what furniture you need to provide. If folks have furniture at their houses, we're not providing the furniture, all right? We want folks to have their own personal items with them. Decorate their rooms, you know, everything is kind of a basic color. Down the road, we can talk about if people want to decorate, paint, or whatever that may be. Right this second, we're not quite ready for painting other colors, but you may have somebody who doesn't necessarily like kind of a bluish gray, you know? But your job is to come in now and decorate it and make it very personal. Family pictures on the walls, favorite colors, favorite whatever it is to make them comfortable in their room, right? I was talking earlier about pictures and the photos and doing some decorations, and if people are artists, decorate some of the hallways with their artwork. You know, it's their home. When you come into the facilities, we talked about this, when you walk into the buildings, the first 20 feet of the building is my special place at Sunrise Community Business, all right? As soon as you go into the main building and you turn left and you go across the threshold, now you're in their home, right? We don't post signs out in the community that say, don't forget to wash your hands, right? If somebody needs some reminders like that, that may go in their bathroom on a mirror, you know? But as a general rule, we operate that these are their homes. We don't advertise what our stuff is, what the staff need reminders for. They should know that already. Those will be posted in staff offices, you know. Concerns sometimes about, well, my loved one has medication, where's that going? I'm worried if it's in their room. Medications won't be in their rooms. Medications, as is other group homes, medication is locked up, and it is administered to the individual based on the scheduled times for that to happen. So, what happens if an emergency happens, right? We're always worried about that. You know, what happens if they fall? Well, we have enough staff there to support them, right? It's an assisted living facility, so the staffing ratio is a little lower, particularly in Building 2, because those are more independent people. People who are in Building 1, those individuals will need more support, and so the staffing ratio will be a little bit higher, right? The staffing ratio is based on the level of need of the combination of your family members with the other people in the building. So we do a ratio, we look at the combination of the individuals we have. We have a projected number of staff that we're going to use, but that will be confirmed once we know who's going to be in the facility, all right? It's not going to be 1 to 10. I'll be honest with you, that will not be the ratio. We like to do 1 to 3, but in ALFs we usually do 1 to 5, okay? And that would probably be at a minimum, but that is based on each facility, okay? And based on the level of need of each of the individuals. So it may be if somebody is way more independent and there are 4 guys who are independent, they all may be on the same floor, and so thus there may not be as much staffing need there because they are able to do a lot by themselves. So if you did the tours, we talked about there are 9 efficiencies in Building 2, which have their own little kitchens and microwaves, and people will be able to do their own breakfast, their own lunch, right? We will have a dining area, so there'll be dining service 3 meals a day. It's going to be available, and we'll have dietitians who are on staff if somebody has special needs for diets. If they don't, and they don't like what we're serving, you know, we talked about this, we have this giant table in MSP2. We're doing residential meetings every month. We need to do them every week to have a conversation about what do you like and what do you don't like, because it's their house. It's not mine, it's not yours, it's their home. To say what do you like, what do you don't like. You know, we've been cooking these all week long and y'all don't really like whatever we're cooking. Let's have a conversation about what can we do differently, right? And that should be the way it is in any facility that your loved one lives in. Those all should be options available to them, and that's how Sunrise operates. So, if something medical happens, we have a medical team. You know, we will do typically what you do also. If it's something we can tend to and it's first aid, we will have a nurse on call. We are not going to have 24-hour nursing. This is not an intermediate care facility where they have nursing all the time. It's not a hospital where there's nursing available. It's an assisted living facility. So we'll have a nurse, we'll have an on-call nurse, but that doesn't mean they're going to run back up to the facility. Our staff are trained in what to do basically about how to do first aid. And if it's serious enough, then if we need to send somebody out to the emergency room, we'll do that. Staff will typically go with them and say, and provide all their information. We'll have what we call grab-and-go binders that have all that information in it. So when I go to the doctor or there's somebody goes out to the emergency room, their binder goes with them so that everybody knows what's going on, right? Whatever the doctor's appointments, as whatever the physician recommends, those are all the things that we're going to continue to do as well, right? So that's the medical side of it. The fun part is, daily activities, doing cool things in the community, getting out there, having things happen on site. We have this fabulous building, and there are so many resources among just you in this room, people who have skills and talents that you'd like to share with our crew. We love that. You know, we're going to be doing activities there. We're going to have fun, you know. If some folks decide that they're not ready to come into the facility and we're having some event, come on. They're welcome. You know, that's what we're looking for too. You know, it's a lot of stuff. So I babble on. Question in the back.
I was just going to say, do you see a role for volunteers in both MSD1 and MSD2?
We do see a role. Sunrise, look, this is our running joke. We love the idea of volunteers. We have a very strong risk department. So anything with volunteer related, I have to work with our risk manager, and she is very strong-minded about how that works. Kathy and I are going to work our magic on her, and we're going to make sure that we can do some volunteer stuff. Okay? Yeah, we have some stuff. Matthew.
From the WSC angle, the facility will have its own established disaster plan that can be provided to WSCs that will explain it. We get one of our Florida hurricanes that are a big problem, and I know the site has good generators on sites, but you'll have a disaster plan that you'll be able to provide WSCs and the family also if they request it.
Absolutely, yes. Actually, Wendy and I were working on it yesterday, making sure we had all the information in there. You know, the emergency management plan has to go to the county and has to be approved by them, saying you have everything you need in place in order to be able to keep your folks safe, right? We are fortunate to have 2 generators, and so they operate as a backup and they operate for both buildings at the same time, right? We're not in a flood zone, we're in the middle of the state. I don't want to jinx anything about those major twirly things, you know. We're hoping not to have any of those, but we're one of those locations. We do have a plan in place. If we do have to evacuate, that's in our emergency plan, and we have a location that we can evacuate to, right? They can come home with you, and if you're evacuating someplace, that's okay also. We talked about sometimes knowing that if people or if you all need to evacuate to us, that is a possibility as well, because we're not putting people out there if you're at risk. So we're a large enough facility to accommodate some of those things as well. But those are things that are still in our works and our negotiations with our emergency plans too. So, questions over here?
If someone has medical equipment, say they have the oxygen machine, they have the sleep apnea machine. This is my sister-in-law, I'm speaking.
Okay.
So, and they have the portable. As far as outlets and electrical, you have the generator, which was nice to hear. We bring in that equipment and...
We have dedicated outlets for those pieces of equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You see the red boxes in the rooms, those are the dedicated outlets for equipment.
What if my person is homesick? I mean, they're all excited, want to get in there, and then reality hits. Uh-oh, how do you, I'm sure this is not new, so you guys have a rote answer. This is going to work, huh?
Yeah, it's going to work. But people are going to get homesick, you know? Think about any of your, you know, in the younger days when we all had college kids and they were going off to college. Weren't they homesick the first week? They were, well, not the first week, it was exciting because I got to do whatever I wanted to do. Okay, but a month in, the holidays are coming close, I'm a little homesick, I don't want to go back to school, right? Same thing's going to happen with all of our folks. Same thing exactly is going to happen with them. They're going to get homesick. Go home for the weekend. You know, come on back on Monday though, or Sunday evening or whatever that is. We don't keep you from going home. If they're choosing to stay away too long, then that would put their placement at jeopardy. All right, and that's just the reality of that because, you know, we do have a wait list. We recognize that if they really want to be with us, they need to stay with us, right? But we love that families are connected. We're so fortunate to have all of you because at least 75% of our families don't have any interaction with their loved ones at all. That's probably about right. That's a little high, but we have a lot of folks who don't have family involvement at all, or very little, you know. So this is thrilling beyond belief for me. So yeah, question over here.
I have 2 questions. Will the doors have key locks or push button locks or no locks? How do the individual rooms work?
Good question. All the doors will have locks, all right?
Push button.
They will
Or do
not.
have to find it to get a
They-
Harry key?
They'll have a key. Everybody will have their own key to their room. We will have a master key to all of the
So we
rooms.
could change that to a push button.
We can have that conversation, okay? We recognize people's personal belongings need to stay their own because we have people who have sticky hands. Not necessarily on purpose, they may say, man, I really like Erin's purse. Can I have her purse? She's like, see, no, okay? But those are the kind of things that we see happening, And so, we recognize that, but those are conversations that we can
I'm
have.
more concerned about losing the key.
Well, and we'll have extra keys. But we have a master key and we'll have the residential manager will have a set of keys for everything, but also extra keys for that reason. And that will be education that we'll do with them. And talk about, okay, where are you gonna put your key? Where you put it on a lanyard, because there are lots of folks who wear them on lanyards, zip cords, where do I keep my key? And so that's a training thing that they'll work on. Because we're about training people too, about things that they need to learn and how to maintain those things. So, Jane.
Kathy sent out an email a while back saying that they would send out a list August 29th, but it sounds like you're still doing interviews, so is that going to be pushed out?
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
So the question was that Kathy sent an email out, Kathy Childs, saying, hey, we're going to give you an update on August the 29th, right? A lot of our days are fluid. We were hoping that we would have all the interviews done by that end of the month, but we will give you some projections for that. So if you receive the email saying, hey, here's where we are, don't worry, because we still have some people to get interviewed. That may be pushed back to the middle of September before that email comes out, okay? Second part.
Will you be notifying everybody of both buildings, or are you just going to notify the people from the first building first?
So when we do the notifications, we'll notify building 1 first, all right? Because we'll still continue to evaluate and see what's going on with the other building. It is a lot to make the determination as to who goes into which building, We thought we interviewed some folks, and then as Carrie and Wendy came out to interview, we thought, well, maybe you're actually going to be better for this building than that building, And so we're going to continue to do that, so, right? It doesn't mean if you're in, the support's going to be there regardless of what building you're in, so, yeah. Question in the back?
How long will someone remain on the wait list?
So there's an opening. There's no guarantee because we're not expanding. But here's an alternative to that, okay? Carrie mentioned, we presented up here that Sunrise has a lot of facilities, right? We may determine though, when we're looking at things, that my special place may not be the best fit, all right? As we're doing these assessments. And we may say, and we've already done some of that, so we've already reached out and shared some information with other families. And so I have 3 group homes within 50 miles of here. I have one in Gainesville, one in Ocala, and one in Bellevue, all right? And so we will offer you alternatives. We have group homes in Tampa. We have those over there. So we'll have that conversation with you if you're on the wait list for a while. At a potentially brand new facility, people are going to be excited nobody's leaving, Unless they're really homesick. Where's Debbie? They're all one with Debbie. But that's a thing that could happen too. You're right. So potentially people could be on the list. All right. And we'll have that conversation with you and say, here's who we chose and why we chose. We're not going to tell you why all that. We're just going to say this is the best fit at this moment. So, question over here.
What about the ones that work, have jobs, and they go to work? How would they get there? Do you have vans and transport?
Yeah. So she's asking about how would people, if they work, how are they going to get to work, right? So if people have jobs in the community, we'll work with them and their support coordinator and see about if there's public transportation. We will have vans. We're going to have 3 vans. We're hoping that, one of them is going to be a wheelchair accessible van because we do know that we're going to have a couple of folks who are going to be in wheelchairs, right? We're projecting to have 3 total vans right this second. I've talked with my budget team and said, here's what I need. So we're looking at those also, all right? This is not my department, this is Christie's. If anybody wants to donate a van, come and see me. Okay? Or do something. Here.
Yes, my question is with regards to communicating Sunrise or MSP. Is that coming from Wendy Flagg emails, or is it going to be coming from Christy Sullivan, or?
Those emails will come, if it's related directly to My Special Place at
Yes.
Sunrise Community, those will come either directly from Kathy, myself, or Wendy.
Okay,
Okay.
your name again, please?
Laura, my name is Laura Safford.
Okay.
And I'm the area director, so I supervise all of this area, and I'm Wendy's boss, so,
Thank you.
but not Carrie's. He's a boss to himself. The back.
You mentioned about people having to stay. You don't want them to be away too long. Thinking about things like extended vacations, how long would you say a person could be out of that room before you'd be concerned about it?
I'll be honest with you, I need to look at the regs, truly. Because the regulations, there are some limits to that, right? We will do room holds. Like if somebody has to go to the hospital and they're out for an extended period of time, we'll do a room hold for that. That happens in our facilities currently. You know, in my group homes, you can't be out more than, you have to be on site at least 16 days in a month. So if somebody's out on vacation for 2 weeks, do it at the end of the month or the beginning of the month. You know, so you're overlapping kind of periods of time. But I can give you more specific times on that under the ALF regs. So, Matthew.
To call back to the question about doors for the individual rooms, how is access to the building going to be managed for during the daytime hours, the various entrances and exits around the building, and then during the night?
So at MSP 1, the doors are key coded. They're keypad coded, all right? It is a more, in that facility, it's extensive needs for individuals, recognizing that we don't people wander away, so they have to have a keypad and have to know what the code is. So those folks in that building will have to be coded into the building. MSP 2 will have a receptionist during the daytime hours, and in the evenings they'll have to ring in. So the doors will be locked all the time, all right? If we need to look at, you know, if we have certain doors, there's a conversation about whether we need to put alarms on some of the exterior doors, just to ensure that if the alarm goes off, that we know, oh, somebody opened that door, you know, so that we can go and check and see what's happening in the hallway. There are a lot of doors in the building, you know, particularly out to the back patio, so, yeah.
This question's come up before. I was just wondering if there's any progress on resident passes in the villages.
There is no progress on that right this second, okay? It's already, Christy has worked for Magic, and at this point, the Villages has a very stern rule about that. It doesn't keep us from being able to, I said today I'm going to make a partnership with Freedom Point next door. I heard today they had an indoor pool. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to get to know the administrator there really well. So, and indoor pool. So, but we're looking to do community activities anyhow. There are a lot of things in the community. We're relying on you all also to be able to help facilitate some of those things. You know, we're going to do a lot of activities on site as well. We have this fabulous porch out back. We have a great garden area in MSP 1 that we're going to do some gardening in there. And those are just some things on site. You know, we may do things like, I know you guys already do, you know, there are lots of organizations here who do lots of special things and activities. We're going to partner with you guys still in that regard also. We'll figure out how we can get out there to do those things.
Bake for Freedom Point once a week.
Bake?
Bake for Freedom Point once a week.
There you go. There's a great one. That's a great idea. Okay.
Get the use of the pool.
Oh. Yeah, Jerry and I were talking about it earlier, that there is a young woman of 100 at Freedom Point who, you know, has a child who, you know, with special needs. But she's certainly going to be invited to the open house. So, because when we open the second building, we're going to have a grand opening, so.
I just want to clarify one thing though. We did indicate at our last meeting, those of you that live in the villages, you can get an in-area pass, a guest pass for your child, and it's good for a year. The caveat is you have to attend the activity that they are using the amenities. So if they want to go to Fantastic Friends, you will still have to be in attendance with them. But it's still an option, it's still something, and that's the best we can do at this time.
Yeah, so my kid's in a day program in Orlando, and so it did move into one of the buildings. Is that still possible to do that?
No.
No.
Realistically, us driving to Orlando to go to day program, you know, it was asked earlier, we are in the process of looking to open day programs.
Right.
We're looking to do one
That's good.
Ocala-ish, but I have 3 group homes that I have to have them start there first before we even think about having my special place participate in it yet.
And then follow, you don't have any like little computers in the lobby that
We will.
very good.
Yeah, we actually, I worked with our IT team. My maintenance supervisor is the project manager for the entire buildings, both buildings. And one of the things that we specifically asked to do was, we will have in the upper floor and second floor of the main building, as well as in MSP1, we will have computer stations available for them. So we'll have a computer, we'll have a printer for them to be able to do those things. At the end of the wings, there will be telephones available. If somebody doesn't have a cell phone, because not everybody always has one, you know, there'll be phones available for people to call on also, you know. So that, and privacy in the halls is, you know, so that we can't put them in everybody's room, but we can certainly put them at the end of the hallways. There will be a phone in MSP1 also, so that people have the ability, they want to call and use calls also, so.
How about Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi is available, yes. Yeah.
Secure?
Pardon me?
Will it be secure?
It will be secure. So Sunrise IT is crazy fanatical about our IT, all right, and our security. And so even like, I couldn't get in I couldn't get Carrie's computer a minute ago because it's all password protected. And in order for us, it links directly to our cell phones. That's how secure things are. So I can't even get into mine if I don't have my cell phone. So, question here? They are. Yes. We'll have to set some parameters for that. But they are allowed to have a golf cart.
As somebody who is privy to the consideration of other people to be our partner in this particular venture, I just want to say how lucky we are to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We are very honored that you chose us. Absolutely. And like I said before, this is an amazing partnership. And I've never met a group of parents, and like I said, I've been in the business for a long time. And I've never met a group of parents like you all, so you all are special.
Yes, we are.
Last question, anybody?
You really don't know who you're dealing with yet.
I'm figuring it out.
Very careful.
I don't have the energy that some of these ladies over here have, and the other one is missing, you know.
So when will we hear definitively when somebody will be accepted or on a waiting list? Will that be in October?
Our goal is, if you're going into MSP1, that we're working on the final decisions about those folks. We had a meeting today to talk about that. I personally will be reaching out to those families, all right? And as we go along, we'll kind of give you a letter out that says, we've made a decision about those individuals who've been in MSP1, all right? And then we're still considering those individuals who are going to MSP2, all right? We recognize that if you move into one of the facilities because MSP1 is a higher level of need, excuse me. But it may be that if you're in there for 3-6 months, you may not need that much support. So we may end up saying, hey, let's, or somebody's in MSP2 and they really need more support. We may coordinate back and forth. We're a fluid facility is what our vision is for this, so.
When will MSP2 be available for occupancy?
We're projecting, all of these are projections, middle of January, February at this point. By the time the construction, one of our things is even if the construction is finished, I mean, MSP1 is pretty much, we're doing the IT portions of it now. We still have to have the fire marshal, the health department, we have to have ACA. Those are the 3 primary people who have to come out and survey us and give us grace to say, yes, you can open your doors, all right? The ACA portion takes the longest. The hoops that we're jumping through, we've been jumping through hoops for 4 months now and trying to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row so they don't come in and say, nope, we're delaying it, okay? We're ensuring we've done this numerous times and that's what our goal is. So those are the projections. We're talking mid-ish October for 1, and mid-ish January, February for 2.
What's up?
Projected. Oh, ACA, Agency for Healthcare Administration. Assisted living facilities are surveyed by them annually or biannually, based on your reviews, so.
And that's open information available, so if you're even looking at another facility, you can obtain their reviews, what ACA has graded them.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. You can look for that. You can also look, if it's a waiver group home, you can go on to Clarent. It's on the APD website also. You can look at any provider and see what their scores were for their surveys. We encourage that to happen too.
And then with that, I'm just going to say, I can't thank you all enough. I'm still in shock that we have moved this quickly, and it could have never happened without Christy and Debbie and you all making it come to fruition. And this is so important, not only for our lives, but the future of our individuals. I'm not supposed to call them kids, right, Christy? No,
Sorry.
not kids anymore. Tell me more about that, Laura, will you?
I'm sorry. You know, I said this yesterday to Debbie Beaucaire, that my mother still refers, I'm 63, my mother still calls me her kid. All of us are kids, so you guys are okay. But Debbie yesterday kept saying that. I said, well, you know, she says, well, what do you do? I say, well, I call folks. Our residents, our folks, come on guys. If I say guys, one of the ladies in the room, I'm not a guy, I'm a lady. Oftentimes I say ladies and gentlemen, you know. So pick something that's kind of, they're adults. That's always our theory, they're adults. Treat folks as adults. Today, tomorrow, I'm a kid, you know. But yeah, it's hard. So folks is the new one that we're gonna try. Or y'all. Most of you from up north, aren't you?
Y'all.
Y'all.
No, I like kids.
Well, I just want to make a comment that I think needs to stay, forefront with us. That Debbie Beaucaire stated this very back, 3 years ago. And she said, no one needs to do this alone. And we are in this together. So thankful for Debbie for making that comment, and it has stuck with all of us. And we are in this together. And Christy has reminded us that creating a future for our loved ones deserves and takes a community willing to plan, ask questions, and work together. So Christy and Debbie have set that foundation for us, words to live by, and know in our hearts that we are together, and planning. Like I said, 8 years ago, Kevin wanted to open a door. Well, you all here are opening that door for us, and we are so grateful, and will continue to open more doors. As you leave this evening, there are handouts, 2 pieces of paper. One is talking about the living options. You know, we heard about residential living, ICFs, independent care is out there also. So, you know, take that information, review it for your information and knowledge. And then also there are questions families should consider when exploring residential services. So we're trying to make this more informative, and if you have more questions, you can easily reach out to Carrie. And you know what, I just had a brain. Laura. I was gonna call you Cara. Carrie and Laura. And Laura. And of course, with us at Affins, we are happy to help you at any time. Debbie, I know you'll get this video and think, she gave my name out again. So thank you everyone for all your support, and we love you.
Thank you, Debbie. Thanks, Laura. That was
I like to get up and you guys go to that. Higher. Possible to have on hand like this. I was